I want to talk to you about letting your kids play in the mud. We're going to cover the benefits of outdoor time, how little time our kids are getting outdoors, what are our barriers to getting them out, and also how will we overcome those barriers so they can reap the most benefits. First, let's define outdoor time. I really just mean any time spent outdoors. Now, to get the greatest benefits, they'd get those from extended free playtime and natural settings. So extended means there's no pressure and hurry to move on to something else. Free play means as parents we're sitting back a little bit and letting our children explore and define their own play. And a natural setting is that, out in the woods, by the beach, by the creek. It's fabulous if your child has all of those things, but that's not what we need to have for outdoor time benefits. Even walking to school in the rain under an umbrella counts as outdoor time. Playing on the playground is outdoor time. Playing in a soccer game outdoors is outdoor time. Sitting outside when you're doing your homework or sitting outside while you're waiting for dinner to get ready. All of those things are outdoor nature time. Even parking at the far end of a parking lot and walking in to the building and noticing all of the trees and such in the parking lot on your way in gets us some of the benefits of being around nature. So why should we bother going outside? Richard Louv wrote a book called Last Child in the Woods, where he talked about an idea called nature deficit disorder, and a number of risks that our children face by too much indoor time. But rather than looking at those risks, I want to flip that around and look at what are the benefits of getting our kids outside. There are several health benefits to spending time outside. First, kids who are outside just tend to be more physically active, and more physically active also leads to lower obesity. They have lower levels of stress hormones, lower heart rates, lower blood pressure. In the long run, that leads to less circulatory disease. They have less asthma and allergies. 20 years ago, we thought the way to protect children from asthma and allergies was to minimize their exposures. We've since then learned that having small, manageable exposures all the time is actually what builds an immune system and a respiratory system and so on. So getting your kids outside and playing in dirt will make them healthier in the long run. Being outside on a sunny day gives you essential vitamin D, which protects from bone problems, heart disease, cognitive impairment in older age, and more. Being outside gives us better vision. If we're inside all the time, there's only a very limited set of stuff we can look at. You take a child outside, and they can look off in the distance at that farmhouse, then look up close at the flower, and back at the farmhouse. All that shift of vision helps to develop both short-range vision and long-range vision. It means it's less likely they'll need glasses as they get older. Time outdoors also benefits your child's physical development. There's simply more ways of moving and more ways of using their body outdoors. In the picture, you see a girl balancing on a log. She's someone who took gymnastics and had mastered the balance beam. But we put her outside on the log when it was round and it bobbled a little bit when you walked on it. Part of it was barky and rough, but the other part was smooth and slippery. She had to figure out how to adapt her movement to balance on this new surface. There's simply more variability outside. If you go to a playground and you climb ladders on the slide, pretty much every ladder rung is the same distance apart. And so it's easy for kids to just jump up and down without paying a lot of attention. Outdoors, as they reach for different branches and they have to stretch for this one and then this one's going to close, they just have to pay more attention and use their body in a more conscious way. Another nice thing about the outdoors is that you can customize to the ability. In the right-handed picture, we've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old climbing up the same thing. And they have different approaches to it and have different ways they make it up. They also had different limits on how far up they would go before they decide, that's as far as I can go safely. But that variability of the tree allowed the kids to customize it to their own ability. And that means that tree climbing surface is going to grow with the child, and they'll continue to have fun climbing it. There's social benefits to outdoor time. Kids playing outdoors tend to have a great time together. I don't have research on this one, but it does seem like it's easier for kids to make friends. That if you put a group of kids indoors together, they're a lot slower to warm up. Outdoors, it's much easier for them to kind of jump right into cooperative play. It also tends to work very well as a multi-age environment. It's not unusual to see children on a playground who are 2 and 6 and 9 all playing together. Outdoor time tends to be child-led. Parents tend to hover closer when we're inside with our kids. We tend to sit back and go and hang out on a park bench when we're outside with them. The fact that we step back a little bit allows our children to lead the play and to decide for themselves what they want to do and how long they want to do it. That gives them some sense of mastery and control over the situation. Now, when children are playing, with parents sitting back a little bit, there's going to be conflict. There'll be times when they're just debating over who gets to go down the slide first, or it's my turn on the swing. If as parents we can sit back, often our children can figure out how to negotiate their way out of the situation and resolve the conflict on their own, which is essential skills for social development. There are intellectual benefits to spending time outdoors. First, it encourages exploring and curiosity because there are always new things to discover, always things we can look at more closely. It encourages imagination and symbolic play, where inside many of our toys are what we call a closed-ended toys, that there's one right way to play with an action figure. You get outside and mostly there's things like sticks and rocks and bark. And suddenly that stick becomes a magic wand, and then it's a baseball bat, and then it's a fishing pole. It's whatever you need it to be. And that builds our creativity. Outdoors, there's plenty of opportunities for kids to build, like whether it's building sandcastles or fairy houses or rock towers. They get a chance to build, and they also get a chance to destroy. Where indoors we might scold them for breaking apart their Lego structure, we don't mind when they bash apart that sandcastle. And that building and destroying has a lot of lessons contained in it. So all this outdoor time gives our children more sense of self-direction, control, mastery over skills. There are mood benefits to being outdoors. There's a common saying that says, when kids are bouncing off the walls, remove the walls. So you have to have kids who are wild and too big and too energetic inside. You let them outside, you let them use their outside voices. They run off all that energy. And as they run off all that energy, you'll also notice that then they switch into a much more soothed, calm mode. Just like for us as adults, we walk outside and we feel calmer. What's happening there is that our parasympathetic nervous system is kicking in. Where inside, we have a very focused intensity, and we have higher levels of cortisol stress hormones. We get outside, and we switch from that focused look to that wide gaze, where we're looking at the world all around us. As we look, we open, we soften, cortisol levels drop, our blood pressure drops, our pulse rate drops. And we just kind of settle into a calmer state. We also know that being outdoors improves concentration. For all children, if they can go outdoors and play outside for a while and then return to homework and tasks, they come back in with the ability to concentrate more and stay more focused on what they're doing. It's especially important for children with symptoms of attention deficit disorder. After spending just 20 minutes outside, their symptoms are more manageable, they're calmer and more settled. So, there's tons of benefits to outdoor time. How much outdoor time do our kids really get? 1 in 10 kids today are outside less than once a week. Especially when we look at our teenagers, the majority of them are online every day, play video games, watch TV every day, do homework every day, but most of them don't go outside even once a week. So how is that different from when we were children? You may remember as a child spending a lot of time outside. When you ask most adults, they spent more time outdoors than indoors as kids. They climbed trees. They visited a natural setting on a regular basis. You ask those same adults about their children, and they'll say their children don't walk to school, don't play outside, would rather be inside than out. Now, if we ask them, do you want more outside time? The parents want more outside time for their kids. They say, my kids don't spend enough time in nature. Kids say, I'd rather be outdoors than indoors. I'd rather play outside. I'd rather play outdoor activities than computer games. So we want them out. They want to be out. Why aren't they out? Let's look at what some of the common barriers are to spending time outside. And we'll look at each of these in detail and kind of think about what can we do to overcome that barrier. One of the first barriers people describe is lack of access. They say there's simply no nature anywhere near me, or we work long hours and we don't get time outside, or I don't have the equipment to do outdoor stuff. I don't have the skills and knowledge to do outdoor stuff. I think you may be setting your standards too high. If you envision outdoor time as a week camping in a national park, yeah, that's hard to do. Or going skiing every Saturday for a whole ski season, that may be challenging to make happen. But when I say outdoor time, again, I mean any time outdoors. And you can find nature everywhere. Even in the heart of a city, you can find those dandelions poking up through the sidewalk, and you can stop and you can notice them and talk about them. You can notice that beetle climbing on the curb. You can notice the worm in the gutter. When you park in parking lots, often you'll find that there's like really little strips of nature here and there hiding in a parking lot. Nature is all around us. Sometimes we just have to look for it. And if you think you lack the skills and the knowledge, there's classes for that. Lots of outdoor recreation stores, lots of parks departments all offer classes that you can take, many of them for free or low cost. And that can kind of get you outside, get you past that barrier of not knowing what to do. Many parents voice concerns about safety. We're worried about all sorts of things. Let's look at different worries and think about how we can manage them. One concern is traffic. We can look for places for our children to play away from traffic. We can think about what toys are safe for them to play with near traffic, like balls and skateboards may not be the best things to do when there's a road nearby. We also want to teach our children pedestrian safety. We also want to teach them expectations about how to be safe around cars. Another concern parents have is unexpected hazards. The outside is just more unpredictable than the inside, and it can change when we don't know it well. So what we do is when we're outside with our kids, we help them notice where is it safe to play, where isn't it safe to play. If something comes up that seems unsafe to them, we point it out. And we say, if you see this, here's how to be safe with that. We teach them things like when you're climbing a tree, make sure you're testing a branch before you put your weight on it. If you test it and it creaks, it's probably not a good branch to put your weight on. So we can help to educate them about how to be safe when we're there, so that if we're not there, right there next to them, they have knowledge about how to keep themselves safe. Another big concern is stranger abduction. A lot of parents will say, well, when I was a kid, this didn't happen, but these days it happens. To be totally honest, the rates of stranger abduction are much lower than they've been in the past 50, 60 years. It's very, very rare to happen. So first, I want us to kind of soothe some of our fears about stranger danger. I also want us to think about how to talk to our kids about this. We can absolutely talk to our kids about, like, for example, if they're out in public, they can talk to adults who are working. I say look for adults in uniforms, look for adults who are obviously working. If you need help, those are the adults you go to. I talk to them about how to be polite and social with adults who talk to them. Like if someone walking by says, hey, how you doing? Or, isn't it a beautiful day? You respond to that, and that's fine. But I do let my kids know that although 99 out of 100 people are good people, there are a few people who aren't good. And I let them know what are some things that would be concerning to us. So if someone offers to give them something, they always say no, or they say, let me check with my parents. If someone asks them to go with them, they always say no, or say, let me ask my parents. Those are the things that are kind of warning lights for our kids. So we want to work on educating our kids about how do they be safe in whatever situation they're in. And we want to find a way to do that without scaring them. To say, yes, we have to be cautious, yes, we have to be smart, but it doesn't mean the world is a terrifying place. I think we worry a lot about the dangers of outdoors with our kids, but I think we forget about the dangers of indoors. A child who spends more time indoors is sedentary, higher levels of obesity, higher rates of heart disease. This child actually has a greater chance of breaking his leg outdoors than a kid who's outdoors all the time. Kids who are outdoors all the time have stronger bones, and they also know what's safe to do and what's not safe to do because they've experimented a lot more. This kid may go out for the first time and jump off a large playground structure and break a femur because he doesn't know that that's not safe. So remember that staying inside in the long run also carries risks. They might not be the skinned knees, but it might be a longer-term health issue. Another barrier that parents share is the sense that there's no time in their schedule. If your child's all booked up with piano lessons, baseball, and so on, it can be hard to fit in outside time. So think about whether there are things in your schedule that can do double duty. For example, if they're playing soccer anyway, could they play an outdoor soccer rather than arena soccer? If you need to go to school anyway, can you walk there instead of drive? If you've got one kid sitting in the car with you while the other kid attends a class, can you go for a walk instead? Some working parents feel like they have very little time to get outside with their kids, and so they may choose a daycare or a preschool that has a big emphasis on outdoor time, so their kids get a lot, even if they can't be there with them. Another way to get outside time is to think of all those times at home when you could be outside. For example, if you're on your phone reading Facebook or you're on a tablet reading or watching a movie, there's no reason you can't be sitting outside on a porch or out in the backyard. Anything that gets you outside instead of sitting inside is going to get your kid outside and get some of those benefits of outdoor time. Obviously, one of the big barriers is the weather. It's too hot, it's too sunny, it's too cold, it's too rainy, it's too windy. If you ask teachers at outdoor co-op preschools, you say, how do you do it? How do you do outdoor preschool all year round? They say, you know what? There's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing. And so they encourage parents to invest in great waterproof clothes that can pull on over the top of their other clothes, good stomping in the water boots, nice warm gloves. So part of it is investing in those products so that you have them around the house and you can use them anytime you want to. The other part is in changing how we think about and talk about the weather. So instead of looking outside and saying, oh, it's raining today, you say, oh, got to wear our boots. We've got some puddle stomping to do. Instead of saying it's really, really cold today, say, oh, since it's cold out, let's put on some extra layers and let's make sure your gloves are in your pocket. Another challenge is that the outdoors is dirty. And sometimes you have to take these kids to places indoors, and you want them to look socially acceptable. So what are some solutions for that? One, I buy all my kids' clothes at consignment stores and thrift shops so that I don't feel like I have a lot invested in them. So if they get dirty, I'm not that upset about it. I sometimes carry a plastic bag for muddy stuff in my car. I know some parents who carry a towel and some water all the time in case they need to do that spontaneous sponge bath to get their kid acceptable again. You can also carry extra clothes in the car. I also keep my son's rain pants and rain boots in the car, and they don't necessarily get washed in between outings. I let them go out, get all muddy. When we come back to the car, we strip off the muddy stuff, outer layers, leave them in the car, and he's wearing, socially acceptable clean clothes underneath them. And part of the reality of having a lot of outdoor time is you may do more laundry than you otherwise would. Another barrier is that lots of parents feel like their kids don't want to play outside. They think they'd rather be inside, and especially rather be on electronics. Now, when we ask the kids, they say that's not true. So let's not assume that. But I will grant you that if a child is totally engaged in playing on a screen and you say, hey, let's go outside, it's going to be a hard transition. I expect a lot of kind of kicking and fussing on the way out there. I sometimes expect that when you get a child outside, they spend a few minutes outside and then they start saying, I'm bored. So we need to figure out how we can ease that transition. Having activities and equipment can help. So if you have bubbles that you keep in the kitchen, but they're only allowed to use them outside, they see the bubbles and you say, hey, let's go outside to use them. Or you've got the sidewalk chalk we need to go out for, or the trike that they get to ride outside, or even something cheap like a couple $2 pool noodles that you keep in the backyard for outdoor sword fights, right? They look out the window, they see the pool noodles, they ask to go outside and play. Once they're out there and engaged in an activity, often they'll then set down that equipment and move on to some other activity and stay out there. But the equipment can help with that transition. Some parents voice a concern that there's no one to play with. They say, when I was a kid, there were neighbor kids to play with, and now we go out to the park and there's nobody there. Or we go around our neighborhood and there's nobody there. So how do you find other kids to play outdoors with? First, you can find other families who want to be outdoors. If you join an outdoor club or go to camps or attend classes about outdoor activities, go on guided hikes with your parks department, in all those places you're going to meet other families who want to be outdoors. And then all you have to do is make plans for other times to meet up. You can also encourage your existing friends to go outside. Like if you have friends over for a play date, say, hey, since you're out for a play date, let's go outside. Also connecting with your neighbor kids. Find out what times they are likely to be outside to play. Talk to the parents. Maybe take turns watching the kids while the kids are all outside playing together. So how much time would we like to see kids have? This nature connection pyramid is similar to the food pyramid in talking about kind of what's a good daily allotment. It recommends that daily you have some time outside with your child. Every day the kid gets out and gets to run on the grass or climb trees, some kind of unstructured outdoor play every single day. They say once a week it's great if you have kind of a nature exploration of gardening or going on a nature walk, going bird watching, something that really focuses on being outdoors and experiencing nature. Once a month, going on an outing to your regional, state, or local park to check things out. And once a year, really going someplace wild, someplace away from buildings and pavement, away from city sounds to experience nature. I think the question is for you to think for yourself, how much time do you wish your child had How much time can you make sure they have? What can you commit to? This book recommends The Green Hour, a daily dose of nature for happier, healthier, smarter kids. Can you make an hour happen every day? Can you make an hour happen most days if you commit to doing it every day? Whatever you can do to increase your child's outdoor time is going to get them some of the benefits of outdoor time. To learn more, check out my blog at gooddayswithkids.com. I have links to lots more information about nature, lots of videos about it, a number of resources about the research about the benefits of outdoor time for your children. And now, get outside and go play in the mud.